Welcome everyone to 284 News. My name is Javon Wilson.
I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant.
And we are so thrilled and happy to be coming to you live out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. The content continues via our website, 284media.com.
In today's news, the Commission of Inquiry's unreasonable deadlines overwhelming public officers and affecting their normal duties.
Almost 20 Haitians and Brazilian illegal immigrants found in vessel near Virgin Gorda.
And Speaker Willock describes the recent prescription of $77,000 legal bill as an act of interference against legislative arm.
Hounourable Wheatley disapproves of the manner the Premier was treated in the recent COI hearings, and the VI is reminded to stay ready during the hurricane season peak, says the Governor of the Virgin Islands. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
You value traditions. Today, you value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Well, welcome everyone. It's Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant. We're coming to you live and direct from the beautiful British Virgin Islands, of course, from Jos Van Dyke, Anegada, Virgin Gorda, and Tortola. We have the latest in the happenings. A happy Thursday to each and every one of you. Before we get into our newscast, touching on some items, the Premier of the Virgin Islands is urging residents to don't be ungrateful and slam those who are disregarding the government's efforts. Teachers to get a $300 stipend from the government's adjustment budget, and they are not for personal use, says Education Minister. The Deputy Premier scolds opposition leader for power grab attempts, and the Speaker accuses High Court judge of interfering with legislator. In addition to that, the Honourable Neville Smith is back with yet another government contract as COI probes the last frustration. Pussers employee seeks attorney for severance pay owed. We're also looking at a very unfortunate incident that took place earlier today on the top of Bellevue Hill, where a vehicle was spotted on fire. Of course, our team of reporters happened to be in the area and caught the image that really showed the daunting task as residents and bystanders watch as this vehicle burned. Of course, we don't know what may have caused the fire. However, those Kia vehicles in recent times have been experiencing a recall based on fires experienced. We're of course going to keep you posted and informed as to the latest happenings. Continuing on the local scene, reports reaching our newsroom on yesterday, September 22nd, 2021, of an interception of illegal immigrants off the waters of Virgin Gorda have been confirmed by official. Our newsroom is in receipt of several photos and videos capturing the almost 20 immigrants on an official Her Majesty's Customs vessel being taken into custody, comprising of 13 Brazilians and 6 Haitians. The immigrants are said to be of Haitian and, again, Brazilian descent. Among them are women and children. We're going to keep you posted on the happenings of this story.
Yes, Rona, obviously viewers, we would have seen that incident yesterday, and we obviously would have seen as well, you know, over the last few weeks and months, the situation in Haiti. Obviously we pray for the country of Haiti, and we would have also seen in international news where Haitians are also trying to make their way across the US border.
Indeed.
To the USA. So we see a lot of these incidents occurring, you know, as that country face difficult times as it has for the last few decades.
And as you said, we've seen it in the past months, but I think it's something that we can expect across the region and on the international scene when there's such high levels of devastation in a particular country. Particularly Haiti, as you said, has received and experienced much devastation within the past few decades. And every time something like this happens, we see where the residents of any particular country tend to flee and seek to what they would consider a better environment.
Indeed, and we also have to commend the task force, the joint task force, for being able to capture these persons before they would have made their way to the land. You know, obviously we want to know what could happen, considering that these persons probably would have basically found their way onto land without being tested to know
what they
we're
in the COVID era,
etc. Well, moving on, viewers, well, officers within the public service continue to be overwhelmed with the high volume of work and what has been described as unreasonable deadlines set by the Commission of Inquiry. Now, this is according to Premier Andrew Foy, who made the comments during yesterday's sitting of the House of Assembly as he requested for a rearrangement of the order paper. But Premier Foy said public officers have been constantly on the clock with their usual duties, coupled with the many requests of the Commission of Inquiry. But he said as a result, the demand of the COI from these public officers ultimately affected them from conducting their duties to have their necessary information prepared and available in time for yesterday's House of Assembly sitting.
Speaker, this is mainly due to our technical officers or public officers being overwhelmed and not being able to give the full attention to finish for this time frame, no fault of theirs, because of the voluminous requests from the Commission of Inquiry that keep pouring in, Mr. Speaker, and with what I consider very unreasonable deadlines, to the point that some of our officers have been reported to me that some of them are concerned with all the duties they have to do regularly, House of Assembly, and the request.
Premier Foy also cleared the air to put at ease any room for speculation, making it clear that the public officers have no problems with providing the requested information set out by the Commission of Inquiry. Well, to back this point, he said that these officers to date have collectively submitted more than 120,000 pages of information at the request of the COI.
Not that they mind facilitating at all, and they have been over 120,000 pages and more than 50-something documents or even more. So they have been cooperated. So when we hear that they are not, that is not so at all. But they're concerned, Mr. Speaker, they're only human. So I'm asking Mr. Speaker for amendment on the order paper.
Our viewers, the amendment to the order paper resulted in the number of their scheduled sections being rearranged, which included the questions being posed by members of the opposition that was initially listed to come early in the morning proceedings. But those questions were rearranged to come today during the continuation of the House of Assembly sitting. Well, Ron, we here again, we see where the COI comes somewhat of a conflict to the normal running administration of the government. We're here with the Premier basically stating that the public officers, are somewhat, lack of a better term, burnout, from the excessive work, having to multitask and doing what they require on a daily basis, coupled now, of course, with what the Commission of Inquiry is requesting. And as we would have seen throughout some of the hearings, some of this information being requested dates back decades ago, sometimes, or in previous administrations. Correct. Basically. So we could understand in terms of, this overtime work, lack of, in terms of what they're being tasked with, overtime work. And as the Premier says, unreasonable deadlines. We obviously don't know some of the deadlines that were asked to be able to whether it was unreasonable in terms of in its entirety, but that is the words of the Premier of the Virgin Islands.
Kamal, there are a couple of things that I have to say on this story as it pertains to this story. Yes, the COI has come at a very difficult point. Of course, we're battling COVID-19. And like you said, some of the information that dates back as it pertains to the information of the COI dates back former administration, some of which some persons were not a part of. In that being said, one of the things that I think is important for us to remember on a public service level when it comes to the COI is that it is important for us to have a proper documentation of incidents, happenings, so that at the end of the day, in the final analysis, persons, it doesn't matter whoever is in office, and it doesn't matter who's taking over the role as permanent secretary or private secretary, no matter the task, information should be readily available as far as it dates back. That is proper documentation. And I think in many cases, apart from the fact that there have been a lot of obstacles, like the uploading of information to the COI and the page having difficulties, technical difficulties that would have caused many persons who have had to been present before the COI to ask for extensions. I think in the final analysis, we have to come to a better understanding and a better method of how we keep information. It can't be a paper trail, literally going in a file and looking for something that was in 1995 paper documents. This is the lack of, I think, technological advancement that we've come to, where we're not keeping a proper documentation of documents so that it could be readily available for whomever is in office or is in that position.
Well, I agree to a great extent with what you said just now as it pertains to the keeping of documents. And as the Premier would have said, when he came into the office, there was no guidance as to how to document certain stuff. Right. And he would have blamed that for the lack of an orientation. But we would see here the government obviously making strides.
It shouldn't have been a lack of orientation for him, because he's been in office for almost 25 years. So maybe his team, his colleagues within the administration, many of them are new. But for him, as an elected official, this is not something that he should be new to. He's been in office for some 20.
And I totally agree with you, but these are his words that I'm using, just for reference. And but as you see, the government moving to the more online through e-government legislation to move a lot of this information, a lot of these departments online to hopefully help with the management of information going forward.
All right, our viewers still ahead. We have Speaker Willock. He's describing the recent prescription of the 77K legal bill as an act of interference against the legislative arm, and the VI is reminded, of course, to stay ready during the hurricane season peak, which we are presently in. We have all these details and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
Welcome back, viewers. Well, a recent decision made by the Supreme High Court to incur legal charges totaling more than $77,000 for the now withdrawn injunction which was filed against the Commission of Inquiry Attorneys is now being described as an act of interference against the BVI legislature. Well, this assertion comes from the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Julian Willock, who is the subject in the case which is still being deliberated by Justice Adrian Jack, who is presiding over the matter. Was speaking during the opening of the 12th sitting of the third session of the 4th House of Assembly on Wednesday, September 22nd, where Speaker Willock expressed his discontent with the recent decision.
There has been much public discourse within the last week about the matter that it's in the courts as to who is to pay the legal costs for the withdrawal of an injunction brought before the court in my official capacity as Speaker, to prevent the 3 attorneys attached to the Commission of Inquiry from carrying out duties in relation to their appointments until and unless their appointment is deemed to be valid in keeping with the Legal Professional Act of 2015. Never in recent jurisprudence in the region or the United Kingdom has there been an issue when a plaintiff brings a matter to court, loses or withdraws, that the case goes to a legal or public debate about who will take up.
Well, Willock labeled the decision as an overreach of the judicial branch, stating that it was clear in the wording of the application filed that he was acting within the capacity as Speaker of the House of Assembly in the matter. Well, he believes that by filing the matter in the capacity as Speaker, there should not have been a debate surrounding who was at fault for paying the more than $77,000 bill.
Furthermore, it is highly unusual for the court to require a party to prove how their lawyers are being financed. Many have argued this is an overreach of the judicial branch with no regards or respect for the 3 equal branches of government. I concur and further view it as judicial activism and interference against the legislature, as the House of Assembly has the right to bring any matter to court independent of the Honourable Attorney General. That is why from 2004, this House, in its wisdom, voted to set up an account via the budget process within the House of Assembly for such actions under the ambit of the clerk. I will not speculate as to why suddenly it is a concern for a British judge as to who pays for a matter that was clearly stated in all filings coming from the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker.
Well, viewers, Speaker Willock believes that this latest development by Justice Jack poses a threat to the democracy of the territory and threatens to undermine and intimidate the BVI legislature, while a decision on who will pay the legal bill is yet to be ruled by Justice Jack. Well, Ron, here again we see the Speaker of the House of Assembly in yet another legal situation, obviously a continuation from the initial one, from the injunction.
Yes.
But he's at he's in the subject of controversy again.
Indeed, but nevertheless, we continue to follow these stories. Our viewers continuing on. His Excellency the Governor John Rankin continues to urge residents of the Virgin Islands to be ready for the possibility of a tropical storm or hurricane as the Atlantic, of course, remains active. Now that we are viewing, he said, and I quote, history shows us that the September brings more storm activity than any other time of the year. The best way to protect lives and livelihood from the impact of a hurricane is for each one of us to do our part to remain ready, the governor said. He also added that this means we should all continue to keep an eye out for maintenance issues at our homes and businesses, restock emergency supplies as needed, and also monitor the latest conditions as reported by reliable sources such as the Department of Disaster Management. Now, out of the Department of Disaster Management, Director of Disaster Management, Mr. Jason Penn, said that the department is monitoring regional conditions, including a tropical wave located several miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, which is forecasted to develop further in the coming days. With 17 named storms having formed so far in 2021, has already exceeded the 20-year average of 14 named storms per year. 6 hurricanes, of which 3 reach Category 3 or stronger, have formed so far this season. The average is 7 hurricanes, with 3 achieving Category 3 or stronger. Now, Mr. Penn of the DDM here in the BVI said these figures are in keeping with seasonal expectations. He said, and I quote, forecasters warned us to expect a busy season, and based on what we have seen thus far, this prediction was correct. Mr. Penn added, we are in the peak of the season now, which means that systems will continue to develop rapidly in the coming weeks, so it's very important for Virgin Islanders to remain vigilant in terms of hurricane preparedness. Residents can get local weather reports daily via the DDM app, website, and social media channels, with updates, of course, shared more frequently when a storm poses potential threat, monitoring weather conditions, having an updated emergency plan at home, especially for persons with kids, and assembling a well-stocked emergency supply kit, including medications and personal protective equipment, are essential steps to hurricane season preparedness. Residents can also view other tools to help them get prepared, like a hurricane tracking map, an emergency kit checklist, the latest list of emergency shelters at bviddm.com. Kamal, we are not out of the woods as yet. This not only pertains to COVID, but it pertains to the hurricane season.
Indeed. Viewers, up next, Hounourable Wheatley disapproves of the manner the Premier was treated in a recent COI hearing, and USVI records its 69th related COVID-19 death, which is a 51-year-old. We get to all these stories after a word from our sponsors.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Well, thank you, viewers, for staying with us. Well, Minister for Natural Resources, Labour and Immigration Vincent Wheatley has voiced his disapproval in the manner of which the Premier of the Virgin Islands was displayed in a recent Commission of Inquiry hearing. Well, Minister Wheatley, in a recent appearance on the Honestly Speaking radio program, said he believes the Premier, Andrew Foy, during his hearing was questioned and portrayed as though he was some sort of criminal.
When I watched the Premier a while ago, all I could do was shake my head. Here's the leader of our country being grilled like a criminal in public space, all over the world. It's watched all around the world. The leader of a country, a democratic country, being grilled by 1880 Act. That's what I'm talking about, the long game. As leaders, we cannot only solve problems for now or problems for the past. We too must learn to play the long game. We must be able to see way down the road.
Well, the minister took a trip down memory lane as he highlighted significant historical periods in the British Virgin Islands to justify his point that the United Kingdom government has been playing the long game with the territory. While he said the ongoing Commission of Inquiry is not coincidental and he believes it was strategically activated.
Another significant period. It's when they had a cattle tax riot, so to speak, 1853. 1880, something significant began to happen in the BVI. It's when the former slaves began to purchase property in the territory. That's around 1880 in there. 1880 is the year the Commission of Inquiry Act came into force. 1890, you saw one of the first locals in the House of Assembly there, Frederick Pickering. We have his memorial scholarship thing every year. Soon after 1890s, we have the Christopher Fleming March here from East End into town. Soon after that, do you recall what happened in the 1900s?
We're listening.
They killed the House of Assembly.
That's right. 1901, 1902, thereabouts.
Exactly. They got rid of that there, so you couldn't make your own laws. 1949, the Great March led by Theodore Faulkner from Enigada. 1950, the restoration of the House of Assembly. 1967, ministerial government. Now we are here now in 2021. That act from 1880, you should say about the long game. They didn't put it in there to affect anybody anytime before now, you know. They play the long game. That act was here around our neck. Like a millstone.
Well, Minister Wheatley also said that it is the governor's responsibility to ensure that the overseas territories of which he or she presides is operated in accordance with the stipulated procedures. Well, he said the absence of this guidance dates back decades and has contributed to the overall systematic issues that are being highlighted in the COI.
The UK has responsibility to these islands. You cannot come now with this 1880 Act, come try and kill me as if we just started this. This was started a long time ago. It was started a long time ago. And the governor, the administration power, bears a responsibility in this. As a young nation, you as administration power has a responsibility, you have a responsibility in this to make sure we are going on the right track from day one. But I guess they probably thought we would never get to this point. Now here we are now, wait a minute. Oh, you've been doing this wrong the whole time. Well, you just wake up last week or last year and realize we've been doing this wrong. A lot of things they've identified as deficient. We too have recognized those things and are putting measures in place to strengthen our democracy, strengthen our institutions, fill in these gaps and to make sure we are more accountable, we are more transparent, and good governance is the order of the day. Well, don't come and try me like some common criminal after all these years when you are supposed to be the one making sure that it's time for us to take things into our own hands and decide, okay, since you have failed us, then let's row our own boat to ourselves now.
Well, viewers, Wheatley, who is also the 9th District Representative, said he believes the outcome of the COI will not be a bad thing for the territory, as it will highlight the many deficiencies that need to be strengthened in the territory. However, he said his only issue with the COI is the manner of how it's being conducted, which he deems as being totally unnecessary. Around here again, we see, where the minister, along with some of the other persons across the territory.
Yeah, residents as well, yeah.
Yeah, basically have this view of, the COI is portraying these persons, such as the Premier and other ministers, as basically guilty until proven innocent. And what you see here, it basically rubs a lot of persons the wrong way. And the minister basically declared as well, he's not saying he's against the COI. Yes, he's all for the COI, just not in terms of how they are going about things.
Well, Kamal, it is a valid point that is brought by the Honourable Minister for the 9th Electoral District, as well as many residents. But at the final analysis, again, you can't tell someone how to conduct their job. You can't tell them how to conduct an investigation. You can't tell them what tone to use. While I do think that it has come at a very inappropriate time, it is the job of the COI to interrogate. It is the job of the COI to summons, whether it be present ministers, former ministers, public servants, as many times as they please to and choose to. I think it is important, however, that we continue to conduct ourselves in the most democratic way possible. It is important that we continue to try to be as prepared as possible. It is for our continued effort that we continue to be as relaxed and not arrogant as possible. I think what really adds to fuel to the fire is when you have persons being called to the COI and it is almost a tit for tat. Yes, they want to defend their country and their post, but it doesn't necessarily help in the final analysis. The Honourable Minister raised some very valid points in that he is not opposing the COI. He's actually happy that the COI has been called because it gets to highlight some of the deficiencies within the service. But my question really to him and other leaders is, whose responsibility is it to fix these deficiencies now that they've become aware and clear to the public? What are we going to do from this point on as a government? And outside of the COI, how are we going to fix a lot of these discrepancies and issues that are plaguing the civil service internally outside of the COI? So I think that is something that we have to look at closely.
And what I think also to kinds of rub a lot of persons the wrong ways is shocking information coming out in the public sphere. But I mean, that is the whole purpose of a COI, to obviously get that information out there in the public so persons can know what have been going on behind the scenes for such a long period of time. And I think that is the main concern of a lot of these persons, a lot of the politicians as well, because a lot of this information they do not want there in the public, obviously to be able for the public to scrutinize their wrongdoings, whether it be a mere error on the act, it may not
intentional,
be, or intentional. It may not be something illegal, but it may be certain procedures that weren't done in the accordance of how it's supposed to have been, conducted. And I think that is the main thing that is rubbing a lot of the persons the wrong way in terms of the information being revealed, hence why a lot of redaction occurring after documents have been made public.
But you are right in the sense that the COI has essentially taught the common residents of the Virgin Islands. It has opened their eyes and really allowed them to explore how exactly things are done or not done. I think everyone who has been actively engaging in watching the COI has learned a tremendous amount about practices and principles that would govern how we operate in the BVI. So hopefully we can learn from this both on every level, but I think it's important that we continue to go ahead.
And what I want to add to, because during the COI we would have seen a lot of critical information coming out from these top officials, top public officials. And one of the major difficulties we have as journalists is trying to get information from these same set of individuals. As recent as this week, I was trying to contact the head of following the recent incident with the Haitians and stuff.
Yes. I've
been trying to contact the head, and I've been getting run all around the world basically for the last 2 months or so. And it's critical that, I believe as a public officials, you were responsible to let the public know what's going on under your portfolio. And I don't think we should be going through we shouldn't be jumping through hoops to get this information that we want to bring for the people. Because it's not for us. We're not going to sit down on the information. The information is for the people. So I really do think that, more needs to be done in terms of transparency, as the Premier and his government likes to talk about. More needs to be done when it comes to having more transparent information available for the people.
Well, that is our job, my friend, and we continue to do it with the best of our ability. Viewers, that is all the time we have. Thank you so much for tuning in. Lots going on across the region, but stay tuned to our website for more information. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Ron Grant.
And I'm Kamal Haynes. Thank you for joining us today, guys.
Bye-bye.